80% of the time we're being taught how to demo our product. Yeah, that's important, but so much more has to happen. And so discovery is the piece that kicks it all off. I always tell salespeople, I really want you to think less about selling and I want you to think more about problem solving. And the selling happens through the problem solving. We can't approach selling from a traditional point of view anymore because a customer isn't a traditional customer anymore. It's really important that companies that I can be most effective with are ready to change, that they recognize that there's something that needs to change and something that needs to happen.
What specific skill gaps are you seeing more often, especially in enterprise sales, that CROs might not actually seeing correctly right now?
I think we're
Hello everyone, I'm Michael Ocean, founder and CEO of Salespeople AI. And today I'm super excited because I got Steve Reid on the call. He's a fascinating gentleman. He's been working with a lot of companies, like past, Steve, 30 years?
Yeah, 30 years in sales. Yeah.
There you go. And I was just checking, some of the examples that he actually, made a big impact on some of these companies. Like he took a company from 10 million to 40 million in span of 18 months. And currently he's kind of like replicating what he learned, as an entrepreneur of working with 8 different venture-backed companies and helping, startups being successful until they get actually to the exit point. I'm going to take a step back and talk to our great, guest. Steve, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Michael. And I appreciate you inviting me, to have this chat with you. It's always great spending time with you.
Absolute pleasure. So, Steve, just tell us, how did you end up in sales?
Well, you want to go all the way back?
Yeah, yes, sir. All the stories.
Sales is a job. I actually had spent 10 years in marketing and had, grown my career to the point where I was the director of a marketing team of about 100 people at a really large multi-billion-dollar company. And then I, left that company to be part of a founding group of a new company, and in that company we were a tech startup, and we had 4 of us that were founders of the company, co-founders, and 2 of them were engineers. They were going to build the product, and one was a finance guy who's going to pay the bills and make sure everybody got paid, and then there was me, and so what kind of happened is. Although I had the sort of the title as VP of marketing, everything that wasn't engineering or finance wound up kind of falling, on my lap. And sales was one of those things that fell into my lap. And so I had to take a crash course in learning how to do sales and really how to lead sales. And so that was an interesting initiation into the sales role. But we were fortunate. We sort of hit lightning in a bottle, and we were able to scale that company over a 4-year period to close to 50 million in revenues. And then we had a really positive exit, and I was tired. I was ready to take some, as you can imagine, as an entrepreneur, I was ready to take some time off and kind of, after taking a little time off and catching my breath and getting in touch with what did I want to do next, I took out a piece of paper and I drew a line down the middle of it. On one side, I said, don't want to do. And on the other side, do want to do. And I just started looking at things that I did not want to do when I took my next job. And as I looked at that list of do want to do, it started sounding like a sales job. And so that's when I made the conscious decision to pivot from where my career had been in marketing and communications and, move over into sales. And so I started looking for a sales job, and I got hired. And, I think the thing that helped me is I'd had some experience with sales as the entrepreneur, but really I approached sales from being a buyer, because running a large team and having a big budget, we're constantly needing to acquire things, to buy things. And I was working with salespeople as, on the other side of the conversation for many years. And I just took that experience and I knew the kind of salespeople that I was drawn to and the ones who were the most helpful, the ones that I thought were the most effective in what they did. And then I also knew the ones that, didn't win my business or that I didn't care to work with and didn't call back. And all of those things were really a lesson to try to help me be more like the salespeople that I appreciated as a buyer and as an executive
Mhm.
decision maker. And of course, there's tons of lessons to learn when you're learning a new craft. And so, I was fortunate enough to be aligned to some great sales leaders that were mentors of mine that I could watch and emulate and learn from. And then, as we all know, probably the things that don't go great are some of our greatest teachers. So if I've had success, it's because I've had a lot of failure to inform, success along the way. And I think all that's part of the learning process. So that's how I got into sales, and what has gotten me on this 30-year journey. And I still love it. Wake up every day really energized by the idea of helping other people make good decisions to acquire the things they need. So yeah.
I love it. I love this story. It seems like I always hear this on this podcast. How did you get into sales? Nobody says like I woke up one day and say, "Mom, Dad, this is me. I'm going to be a salesperson." What is even sales for? It's sales. But our lives kind of like lead us to sales. And I barely seen if anybody like past that first 2, 3, 4, 5 years saying that I'm done with sales. Like I've been, in sales for maybe over 10 years. Some
Mhm.
years I had, upside downs, and I'm still, building something in sales because it's so fascinating. Like it's psychology to be like just learning about yourself, learning about the bar in front of you as a human being, and you keep evolving. Look at all the changes in the market past 2 years. We had to completely shift our perspectives and how we do things from top of a funnel perspective all the way to how do we keep clients happy, so hopefully they stay longer with us and we can work together. Steve, I want to focus on what you do today. So could you tell us a little bit about Vantas, and what's your role with Vantas? Like how do you work with companies?
Yeah. So Venatas is a company I started 4 years ago. So I'd reached a point in my career, in my life, where I know that I'm working kind of toward the final laps that I'm going to be running in my career, right? The year I started the business, like I said, 4 years ago, I was turning 60. And I was just thinking, how do I want last chapter of my career? What do I want that to be? And you even mentioned that I had spent a fair amount of time working with a collection of venture capital funded VC and PE funded companies, a lot of startups. And so over a 10-year period, I worked for 8 of those companies, and it was super, super exciting, a lot of hard work. And it was a lot of travel, a lot of being on the road, and and so then here comes the pandemic here, and we're all got to go home now, right? We're all going to be off the road, working from home and being virtual. And it just felt like this was a good time for me to pivot. So I wrapped up the work I was doing with the final company that was part of that VC group. And I decided that doing something on my own, going back and being an entrepreneur again, would be a good idea. It was the right timing, it was the right thing. And this allows me to sort of do things on my terms as I think about the final work that I want to do. And Michael, I said to myself that I want to run hard all the way through the tape, right? So if I'm thinking of this as this has been a 30-year marathon. So if I've got, 5, 6, 7 years left, I don't want to coast. I want to feel challenged. I want to feel stretched, and I want to run hard. And so running a business, getting something off the ground, having to go find your own work, do your own work, deliver all this stuff, find your sweet spot, work every day in that sweet spot. That's what I wanted to do, and really have no regrets about, having left anything on the field when my career's over. So that's why I wanted to do it. And I get to now choose to do the things I'm most passionate about. I've led sales teams. I've been a CRO, and I've VP of sales and various different things. And so rewarding and so much fun. But the administrative part of that is not what I enjoy. But the team development, the problem solving is what I really get energized by and what I enjoy the most. And so now I get to do that almost exclusively and pour myself into others because I know they're on the same journey that I was on. And so there's anything that I've learned that I can pass along and I can help and I can see the growth and I can, be part of someone else's story. That's what I love to do. And so that's what I've set myself up for. It's just I get to do that every day. And so again, it's been 4 years, and time flies. It goes by really fast. But so I help other companies with whatever your sales needs are. Whether you need an interim leader because you're in a transition period, whether you need someone to come in and take a look at your growth strategy, if you need to upskill your sales team through training and development, enablement services, whatever that might be. If it's sales operations, taking a closer look at your operational rhythm and your systems and things like that, and tuning them up. Those are all services that I provide, and it's just kind of following what the customer's needs are around all things having to do with increasing sales performance. So that's what I get to do.
I love that. Kudos to you again for taking charge and doing whatever you want to do. And I know it's very difficult being the same, entrepreneurial journey, but it's so, it's so fascinating. And that's how I call it. Like you choose who to work with, you choose how to work with. You're responsible for yourself and your team, and all this difficult. There are tons of learning and nice challenges involved in this journey that you never get bored. Like that. That's how I describe it. Like, it's like I enjoy it. Like, why do you
Yeah.
work on the weekend? Because I like it. Like
Yeah.
it's really like it feeds your curiosity a lot. And I think good salespeople, a lot of us, like, we are curious creatures regardless of where we are in our journey.
Yeah.
Steve, let me ask you a question about like how you go about assessing, which client that you're working with. So let's say if someone reaches out and say, "Hey, I have a problem," do you have certain criterias like in mind when you pick a company? And I'm just curious to hear how would you pick a company to work with because you have that freedom right now.
I think it's really important that companies that I work best with and that I can be most effective with are ready to change, that they recognize that there's something that needs to change and something that needs to happen. And what's interesting is I've definitely had an opportunity to work with some companies who have a need and they recognize that they have a need, and they'll even hire me and spend a lot of money to have me come in and to help, and then they'll resist all the work that needs to be done and all the change that needs to happen. And it's just not that easy, and it's just not that comfortable to always have to go through what you have to go through in order for good growth to happen and for good results to occur. It's like going to the gym, right? We want the outcome. Like, we want, to have a well-toned body. We want to be in good shape. We want to look good. We want to feel good. But that 30, 45-minute workout several times a week is painful. And you got to get your butt up off the couch and get down the road to the gym, and you got to go in there and start doing stuff. Now, after a while, you start enjoying that, but you have to grow that habit. Well, they're not growing the habit of going through the hard stuff to get to the good stuff. And so I really want to make sure that customers that I work with are ready. Like, they're ready to embrace the grind, embrace the change that's going to have to happen. And that it's not just that they want the outcome, but they desire the process that they have to go through, and they're ready to do that. So I think philosophical alignment in that area is really important. I say that I am not in the content delivery business. I'm in the impact making business. And that's got to be two-sided, right? So the company has to be ready to make an impact and not just go through the motions. And I have to know that I have the experience and the expertise to help with their specific problem. So if we can find that alignment, then that probably works for both of us, and we both wind up happy with having spent time together and the work that we've done together because we got the results to show for it.
That makes a lot of sense. Again, most people are looking for the magic pill. Just give me that
Yeah,
magic pill so I can just, take it and all the problems will get disappeared all of a sudden. But let's just talk about the companies that they already have the mindset. They know there is a big problem that needs changing.
yeah,
But based on my experience, when I go through discovery, with clients with more, complex use cases, when you dig in, the bigger problem is they know they have a problem, but they cannot really identify the gaps and how to go about fixing them. You, as a, let's say, fractional CRO or leader who gets into a company, how do you prioritize, which gaps to fix first when everything feels urgent? Because when that urgency comes, again, the mindset kind of like is aligned with that. How do you do that assessment?
yeah. So I think it's important that while there's a lot of things that are really urgent and the customer desires a lot of fast action and really quick impact, you have to set the expectations that the first thing we have to do is get a good handle on what's really going on. So there's got to be at least a little bit of time spent to understand and get the lay of the land. And here are the facts. Like, regardless of how many times I've worked at various different places and I've helped solve some similar problems, you cannot cookie cutter the solution at every organization that you work with, even if they're very similar in size and in what they sell. There are differences that are really important. So you have to understand what is really going on here. So the first thing to do is to be a sponge, like to walk in, get a lay of the land, get an understanding of what's going on, take a look at the data, meet the people, and understand who their customer is, what's happening. And so you can get kind of to the root of the things that you can do. And then you start prioritizing what to work on. Now, a lot of the stuff in your playbook is going to be applicable, right? You're going to be able to run that play and it's going to work. But there are going to be some shifts and changes that you have to make in order to really serve that customer well. So, first thing is learn. And then I think one of the most important things is like what's the pipeline and what are the pipeline dynamics? Because it kind of starts there. If you don't have pipeline, then where's the revenue coming from? And without revenue, we can't make investments in a lot of things that we might want to do for the sales team, but also the rest of the company needs that revenue too. So I think one of the very first things that always has to get fixed is the health of the pipeline. And so often we will start there and then we'll take a look. So I kind of like to think of it as lead generation approach and effectiveness, your sales process and operational capabilities and the discipline that you have around those. And this is a gap I see a lot, that an articulated, replicable, scalable sales process has not been determined, has not been scaled. I mean, it has not been, really articulated. And if it has, it isn't being followed. So the accountability to the process isn't high. So the discipline is lacking around it. And then the other thing is, how good is the team that you have? And so one of the things I do from day one is I have an assessment engine that allows us to completely assess the talent of the sales team against the known factors that are known to be predictive of selling success. And it gives us an understanding of where the team needs help and also what they're great at that's already contributing to, the success that they have. So then we can make better calibrated decisions about the talent, how to help them, how to design an enablement program, how to work on stuff, and also what's possible with the team that we currently have. And do we need to make changes? So those tend to be the priorities. Learn, examine pipeline, get an understanding of sales process and capabilities and of the sales team. And that tells us a lot.
I really like your approach because it's really holistic. It's not one size fit all. To your point. each company is different, regardless of, okay, maybe you serve mostly, hypothetically, Series A companies. Which industry? What sub, vertical we're looking at here? Who's the founder? What's their background? What the problem? So
Right.
to your point, you need to really go through this discovery from your end to really figure out, what's not working. Today we want to focus on again upskilling reps, and most of our audiences, are CROs, VPs of sales, and some of them are new CROs or VPs of sales. Maybe they just started, this role as a first timer, or they have some challenges again looking at the all the macroeconomics that is happening past 2 years. So I wanted to hear from your perspective, going through this discovery calls, working with multiple different clients. What specific skill gaps are you seeing more often when it comes to, especially in enterprise sales, that CROs
Mhm.
might not actually seeing correctly right now?
I think we're still trying to approach sales from the traditional selling model, and the skills that we teach salespeople how to go sell at our company when they go through onboarding training or whatever. It's very, very traditional, and the problem is our buyers have changed, and our buyers are no longer really responding well to or desiring a very traditional sales type of an interaction. And so let me just explain. Look, all of us have changed the way we desire to buy
Hmm.
as consumers. So online retail has completely changed the expectations around how we get the stuff we want, and we can get more and more stuff and more categories of stuff that we want all the time. And it's ultra convenient. We can shop at any moment we want to. We get a wealth of information in the form of multiple choices of the same type of a product, pricing, competitiveness, tons of research from people who have bought this product before, and videos, whatever it might be. And we don't have to use a salesperson to do that, and we don't have to leave the convenience of our home. In fact, we've got a phone, we can shop, right? And then it magically shows up on our front door. So the problem is, in business to business buying, buyers want more of that highly curated, personalized, on demand, made for me type of an experience, and they don't find that in interactions with salespeople. And so salespeople have been taught and continue to be taught to talk a lot about their product, about the services that they provide, and to make it a lot about them. And they think that's what the customer wants. And what the customer really wants is it to be about the customer, about the buyer, not about the seller. And we just aren't teaching salespeople to approach selling as problem solving. And in order to solve a problem, Michael, I've got to know what your problem is. I don't know what your problem is if I'm not asking, and if I'm not asking great questions, and I'm not listening before I'm assuming and telling you all about what I have. And so it isn't about my product, it's about what your problem is and what equals the outcome that you care about. And so I always tell salespeople, it's part of my training, is, I really want you to think less about selling, and I want you to think more about problem solving. And the selling happens through the problem solving. Like, you're going to get what you want as a salesperson if you give the customer what they're looking for. And the other thing is, the customer doesn't really buy your product or service. What they really buy is the outcome and the value that your product and service can create for them. So you've got to know what that outcome and that value needs to look like. And think of it as a big chasm that the customer wants to cross. I'm at point A, and point B is across that chasm. I got to get over there because I want what's over there. That new reality is what I want. Your product and service is a bridge to get there. But if that bridge didn't take them to point B, where the value lies, the thing that they want, the place they want to get to, they wouldn't care about your product or service. Your product or service has no value unless it gets them to the thing that they want. And if we can change that mindset, then we'll change the way we have conversations with customers, and we'll change the way we talk about our product, the way we align our product to being the thing that gets them what they're looking for. And that will feel much more curated and much more personal and less sort of pushy and invasive, as traditional sales has always been. And this is going to continue to change, because by the time we show up, customers already know a lot about us. They've already done a ton of research. They've already made a lot of strategic decisions, and they don't really have time and patience for a lot of stuff that doesn't add immediate value to them or doesn't sound like, you know what I want, you understand me, and you sound like you know how to solve my problem. So that, I think, is where we're failing salespeople today. And frankly, we're failing our customers because we're not focused on problem solving and selling in a way that proves value, and that our solution is going to solve the problem and get the customer what they ultimately look for, which is not a feature, it's an outcome.
A lot of wisdom there. And look, to your point, the whole buying mindset has changed. Like we got Amazon, right? Just buy it quickly, you return it, hassle free. You got 200 options in front of you. So that kind of like helped that shift in B2B buying, because buyers are buyers. Like they're human beings.
Right?
They purchase stuff for home. Now they're doing it for the company. So what's the main reason why they might actually consider having a conversation with a salesperson, whether the lead comes inbound
Yeah.
or outbound? What is it that they actually try to achieve getting on a call with another human being while they have all the information they need?
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned Amazon, and really all of online retail has been shaped by the Amazon experience. But B2B buyers cannot buy everything that they need off of Amazon or through that type of an experience. Now, we can, as a business, buy a lot of stuff online and not have to involve a salesperson at all. But there are things where we're not going to be able to extract the salesperson, at least not today, from every buying situation. And some things are just really complex, and you need a conversation, you need an interaction with someone from the company in order to make that transaction work. And especially when you're talking about really complex enterprise type selling, where there's pricing considerations and terms and negotiation that all has to happen, somebody has to be involved from the company to make that transaction get all the way through. So that's why if we're going to buy a blender, I don't have to talk to a salesperson. Now look, here's what the research is telling us, though, that B2B buyers, if 70% of them said, I would rather not work with a salesperson at all, and if I could buy without having to interact with a salesperson, I would choose to do that. So that's something that as a salesperson, we need to understand and internalize. Like, we're not wanted or desired in the process. And if they had their choice, they would just rather us not show up at all if they could do what they needed to do. So how do we show up in a way where the customer says, I value having you here? And so we just know that we can't be extracted completely from the process today. So how do we show up in a way that really honors that we're here for a purpose, and it's better with me than without me? And we just have to be different than what we've normally been. So customers really value what I teach is customers value four really overarching skills. And there's a lot of research to back this up with deal maker and deal breaker behaviors by salespeople. And the number one deal breaker behavior is that the salesperson doesn't understand the customer, their role, or their needs. They just don't understand them. They understand their product. They're taught a lot about their product, and they understand how to talk about it, but they don't know what their customer's job is, how their customer's measured, what frustrations they have, the problems that they have to solve internally. So it doesn't feel like, when I, as a buyer, am talking to a salesperson who doesn't know me, I'm not connected to you, and I don't buy you as an expert. I don't think you really understand how to problem solve. And that's a big hurdle to get over. And so they want a salesperson, number one, to show up understanding me and my business and my needs. Second thing that they ask for is communicate exceptionally well. And the very first thing that they want in communication is that you're a good listener. And most of the time, we don't think of listening as a communication skill. We think of talking, we think of presenting, we think of demoing as a communication skill. And maybe we'll add in a little bit of written communication with emails and things like that. But most of the time, we're not correlating listening with being, in the customer's mind, the most important communication skill is, did you listen? Are you listening? And that involves a dialogue, questioning, listening. Third thing is focus on what happens after the sale, because that's what the customer cares about. So the customers are telling us, stop trying to get me to buy tomorrow, the next day, next week. Instead, tell me what's going to happen after the sale. Paint that picture for me. Help me understand how things are going to be different. And does that match what I want different to look like? Really show me the future value after we do the sale. And can we keep focusing on that until I'm convinced? And salespeople are not great at being taught how to do that. And then the final thing is bring me insights and perspectives. So you're supposed to be the expert. And supposedly you've solved this problem or problems like this for lots and lots of other companies. What do you know that I don't know? Because I'm seeking an answer, meaning I need insight. I need perspectives. Do you have any? Can you share those? And when you can show up as well informed and really adept at problem solving, and you can share these stories of value that you've done for other customers, and you can help the customer relate to that, you reframe their thinking, and they're now buying you as an expert. So all four of those skills are the key skills that customers look for. I mean, they're very much searching for salespeople who can act that way. And when they do, those salespeople win their business 75% of the time. So that, I think, is what customers are searching for and not finding nearly enough. And they're just in a situation where they would rather not work with salespeople, but they have to. But the ones they really value are the ones who, show up with those skills in abundance, and they will follow those salespeople everywhere. I'm the same way. And I think about, going back to when I was a buyer more than I was a seller. That's exactly what I was looking for. And so I think that that's what's going on is we can't approach selling from a traditional point of view anymore because a customer isn't a traditional customer anymore.
Steve, this resonates a lot. While you were explaining this, I was just going through examples and conversations, and we've been having with our own clients, and it seems like all four items you mentioned, like the fact that I don't understand my buyer persona. I've never been in the seat of a CMO, and maybe he's 20 years older than I am, and I never got the relevant training to really get me to the level at least to understand their world. And from there, to your point, we all focus on product selling. Product selling. We have this new feature. We have that new feature, and we think by vomiting some information or just keep talking. This is a conversation. This is not the right conversation. You're not listening. You're not relevant to your buyer.
Right.
And then when it comes to showing, to your point, what happens if you quote unquote close me? Is it going to be a one-off transaction with
Right.
show me that feature? And to your point, most sales organizations, at least based on what I'm seeing right now, they really focus on a very narrow skill set. You're a salesperson. Your job is to win the deals. Your job is to book the meeting. Yes, these are the end results. It's like me as an entrepreneur. Yes, I got to make money just to sustain my team. But what could impact I'm bringing, and what else I need to cover to run my business, smoothly? It's not only about just like getting the client. I have to hire, I have to build my culture, I have to take care of so many other aspects of this business. So if we don't look at it as someone like a business owner or like a real
Right.
athlete that needs to work with multiple different aspects of their business, and we just train on a very one directional aspect of things. And last but not least, to your point, do you have relevant information? Have I ever worked with similar clients with similar situation? Why would I go and rely on a doctor for open heart surgery if you've never done it in your lifetime. So
Right.
pretty much the same.
Right.
So, like you said it all. I think this list resonates with at least whoever I'm working with, because to your point, there is a shift. We all, thought ourselves people how to sell the product, how to
Mhm.
be quick about, feature dumping rather than listening and really working with the client.
Right.
So where should we start? Like, if all these problems exist within the organization, you come in, you do your, skill gap assessment, and you figure out all of these problems do exist. Where should we start? One, two, three, four.
Yeah. Well, okay. So look, the most impactful training that I do, and this is across the board, regardless of what the company sells, how mature they are, how much revenue they have, how large the sales team is, how small the sales team is, startup or like mature company that's doing hundreds of millions. Every time I teach discovery and a very specific discovery methodology, it's instant impact. And I think of selling as a series of winning moments. And that's kind of how I've codified my training is into this format or this model that I call skills for the winning moments. So to me, there are four key winning moments as we look across an entire sales cycle. And so this is now let's sort of carve out the fact that lead gen and getting that initial meeting in and of itself is its own winning moment. But let's imagine that we're starting with the first conversation with the customer. So the winning moment of discovery, and then we have value alignment. So now how do we align our value to the thing that we've learned in discovery that the customer desires and wants, the outcome they're looking for, this new set of metrics, what new and better needs to look like. So value alignment. And that covers things like engaging with the buyer group, putting together the right kind of a proposal, constructing a deal that really works for everybody. And then the business case. So the business case is a winning moment because ultimately this has to go in front of a decision maker who has the power to say yes or no, to allocate the budget, to commit the company to get into business with us. And they're on the hook for the outcome of that decision. So they have to be convinced. And most sales organizations are not great at actually crafting an executive level business case that gets presented. They think a proposal or a contract's a business case, and it can be an element of that, but it's not the business case that this executive decision maker is looking for. And then the final thing is close management. So how often have you seen in your own environment, at your own company and other places where you've been, we got the yes, but we missed the forecast date because it takes 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to manage the close. And so a lot of that is because we only start managing the close after we hear the yes. We didn't even know what the process was going to look like. And we have no collaborative working relationship with the customer that contemplates how are you going to manage this close. So to me, those are the four kind of winning moments. And so there's a collection of skills that you need to be completely audible, ready to use, call on at a moment's notice for whatever moment you're in. It's just like being a baseball player. There are multiple skills you have to apply to win a baseball game. You have to hit, you have to field, you have to throw, you have to run. All of those things have to be skills that you can't think about it. You have to do them automatically because you've learned them and practiced them. So selling is the same way. We have to handle objections. We have to ask great questions. We have to talk about our product. We have to do value-based demos. We have to negotiate well. We have to manage a close with a customer, engage with different audiences. So do we know how to do those things? 80% of the time we're being taught how to demo our product. And so yeah, that's important, but so much more has to happen. And so discovery is the piece that kicks it all off. And if you lose discovery, you don't get to do any of the other winning moments. So that's where we always start is let's figure out how to correctly engage with a customer from the start so that we get invited back to the rest of the winning moments. And that's always the most impactful thing, because it's always the thing that they're doing most incorrectly. And a lot of stuff just grinds to a halt there.
This is really interesting because to me it goes back to the basics, foundation. You do a great discovery, you get a shot, even if you screwed up the demo. Yes, you want to do great, in every stage of your process. If you connect with that, prospect, and they trust you, they will give you another shot. Like it happened to me many, many times. Look, I screw up discovery calls too, not just to say, hey, I'm a superstar. But what I'm trying to say is, if I do a great discovery, I get multiple shots to screw things up along the way. I still win the
Yeah.
deal because I
Right.
understand the problem correctly. And tying back everything to that problem always give me an opportunity to correct my mistakes if I earn the trust from my basically economic buyers. If they're involved early on and they like to work with me, they give me a shot. Like I've seen this all the time. My last question is about like what really keeps CROs up at night. And I meet a lot of CROs these days, and AI transformation is a big thing, and we all know it. Do you believe your reps burn leads practicing on client calls? When it comes to giving them one-on-one coaching sessions, just don't have the bandwidth, so you get rid of them altogether? Or maybe you notice that your team spends a lot of time on non-revenue tasks like taking notes, updating CRM, or drafting emails. These are the exact challenges we solve for other revenue leaders like yourself. With Sell Me the Spend AI Coach, you can offer your reps role-play sessions at scale while automating one-on-one coaching sessions based on your best practices and methodology. Also, AI will take care of all their non-revenue tasks, like note-taking, CRM updates, draft the email for them, so they can focus on constant improvement while you're focusing on one thing and one thing only: revenue growth. If you're interested in learning more about the clients we are working with or use cases that might be beneficial to you, check us out at sellmethespend.ai. My question is, like, how should they really shape their hiring and development decisions for the next 18 to 24 months with everything that is happening around us?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you can't bury your head in the sand and think that this is a passing fad. So no, AI is a transformational tsunami, and it is here, and it's coming, and it's going to rapidly change, the way that we do a lot of things in our lives and in our businesses. And sales is not going to be carved out by itself and never be affected by AI. We are going to be part of it, and it's already happening, and even it's going to happen even more rapidly and more profoundly. So you have to get comfortable with the idea that AI is going to change some things that to you may have felt sacred for many, many years. So if you're stuck in that thinking, you're in the wrong place. Now, you want to do it smart. You want to, be careful to make your investments correctly. You want to deploy the things that have high value, but you have to get in a mindset that I'm going to get on this train, because otherwise it's either going to pass me or run over me. So number one, mindset around it to know it's here, and you got to be part of it. So when you think about that, I think right now the big wins in AI for sales, and certainly over the next, I would say 18 months, are going to be how you can use AI to improve efficiency and to scale things that are hard to scale. So in my business, in doing a lot of sales enablement, sales training, it's hard for me to scale the number of conversations and coaching that I can have with sales team members so they can understand what they could have done better on any given call. So my ability to coach individual sales calls is limited by physics. How much time do I have to spread across all the calls that are happening with all of the clients and all the salespeople? So great applications that are being built today to scale coaching using AI. It's all dependent on the learning model that you feed it. But if you give it good information, what I've learned is it can coach as well as I can, but it coaches a lot faster than I can, and it coaches a lot more than I can. It can scale all that. So that doesn't mean there isn't a role for the sales coach, but it means the sales coach that embraces technology is going to be out ahead, and they're going to be able to affect the outcomes a lot faster. So that's an example of how efficiency, through AI is going to be a great investment to make. The other thing that happens is if you're not asking salespeople to do a lot of process oriented things because AI is doing that for them, a lot of the updating of the CRMs automatically after calls, follow up sequences with customers that are almost already written for you. All you have to do is, kind of quickly edit them and they go out the door. Opening up several different systems to put notes in, if you don't have to do that kind of stuff anymore, then actually your salespeople can spend more time selling, and your headcount needs may actually be less over time because more time can be allocated by the same people to do more selling. And you don't need more people necessarily headcount wise to scale your business because AI is taking care of a lot of the administrative piece. I think that that's a win. And so you think about investing more in technology and maybe not nearly as much in headcount over time. And then the final thing I think is that rev ops and sales ops, whoever's managing the sales tech stack and looking at the data and analyzing what the data is telling us is going to be more and more important because we're going to have more access to better technology and to faster insight and the ability to action that insight much faster and more precisely because of AI. So the people that know how to do that, the people that know how to manage those systems and put together an ecosystem of the right collection of technology for your team, for your company, are going to be really important. And they are not going to be easy to hire because they're going to be busy. They're going to have a job already. They're going to be well compensated, and you're going to have to go pry them away from what they're doing. So if you got people today, you should be investing in their growth in this area so that they get really good and can do that for you. So those are the areas I think AI, what's right on our doorstep today. And it's even hard to envision with as fast as it's growing, and it's like every week something amazing new that it can do. It's hard for me to predict what it's going to be able to do in a few years. But those are the things that feel like the low hanging fruit, the easy pickings is efficiency and scalable coaching and reducing the administrative burden, giving us better insights faster.
I love that. Steve, thank you very much for sharing the breakdown. I really enjoyed this conversation. Guys, I hope you learned something new today and you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I guess until next time, bye for now.
Thank you.